Hello, everybody. I'm Simon Pimenta, and today I'm going to chat to Faith Canter about the topic of dealing with addiction. Hello, Faith.
Hello, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So tell us, Faith, where in the world are you right now?
I am currently in Portugal.
Okay,
um,
and how's
I have
the
been all over this year, though, all over the world this year. But I have been here
already in
now for.
2018?
Oh no, yes, no. Actually, this year I've only been in Portugal. Last
Right,
year,
last
sorry,
year.
all
It's
over.
okay. Yeah,
So
yeah. It's still early. It's
yeah,
still early. So, yeah, I was interested to talk to you about the topic of addiction because it comes up. I work with people and a lot of people with ME, chronic fatigue syndrome, and sometimes addiction comes up as being an issue that can be getting in the way of people's healing and recovery. Could be food addiction, drugs, alcohol, sex. Um, or other addictions. And when I think of myself, I can see at times where addictions have been a bit of a distraction. I can even remember as a kid, being in a sort of penny arcade, and me and my brother spent hours playing on the penny machines. And if when we ran out of money, we'd be looking for coins. And I remember being in there and then suddenly thinking, we need to get out of here. And just, I can remember the feeling of walking out into the fresh air. We were by the sea and just feeling this release, this sort of relief from being in this sort of pressured environment. And I know sometimes that I can get, in the past, I've sort of, as a kid, well, not as a kid, as a 20 something, I did sort of look at pornography, and that was a way of dealing with difficult feelings. And even at times, I've noticed that things like just watching box sets or eating chocolate, it can become very addictive. And there's a bit of me that just wants to keep going, whereas I know actually it's really useful to actually stop and sort of listen to what my body actually needs. So I want to just find out a bit from you. What's your connection to this topic? Because I know from a conversation we've had in the past that you talked a bit about your experience of addiction. So tell us a little bit about that.
yeah. I mean, I have had numerous addictions throughout the years. Some to a lesser degree than others. But drugs and Facebook, even, and alcohol, smoking, food, issues with food, too much, too little, various things. So, yeah, I've had a selection of them. But I think for me is recognizing that I think in society we think, oh, that someone's got an addiction, that's bad, But actually, for me, I recognize now with the work I've done on myself and with helping other people, is that the addiction is just an invitation to resolve something within us, and it really is just a distraction. So if you're finding it doesn't even have to be an addiction. That's when it gets to the extreme point of where we're actually getting something back, from the addiction in some way or another. But even if you're finding you're spending tons of time on Facebook, or you're spending tons of time watching box sets, like you said, that can be quite addictive especially on these things online that just keep playing them.
Yeah.
And or smoking, drink, drugs, buying clothes, chatting on the phone, I don't know, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be something that we perceive as bad. So it doesn't have to be drugs, alcohol, gambling. It can be things like that you touched on, food. It can be things like exercise. There's a lot of people that have got a lot of unhealthy addictions almost to exercise now and things. If you are doing something to the extreme in any way or form, I would invite you to kind of ask yourself, what are you trying to distract yourself from? And that's where these things generally start. So it might be something painful from your past, or it might be something going on now, like you feel lonely, upset. It gives you comfort. For food, it can be you want something sweeter in your life if you have sweet cravings. You want to feel filled up. You want to feel protected. It's the beginnings of an addiction in any way or form is just an invitation to resolve whatever in your life that you feel that you need distracting from at the moment. And that's when I notice if I'm eating a lot of even good stuff, if I'm eating a huge amount. A while back I realized I was eating a huge amount of chocolate, and it was raw chocolate, but I was like, I'm eating loads of this. What's going on? And it was just a distraction.
Yeah.
From something that was going on at the time. So it's really just feeling into how it feels, what it's giving us, what we're distracting ourselves from, and finding that stuff in a healthier way, and in a more nourishing way, and resolving whatever's behind it. So, yeah, I kind of went off a tangent then, but that's where I've got to where I am.
Okay, so let's sort of go back a bit. So what would you say was the first thing that you really recognised as being an addiction in your life?
Let me think. I would say food probably was an addiction very early on. It made me feel comforted. It made me feel good. And then to the other extreme, the lack of food. When I had eating disorders, it made me feel in control.
Right.
It made me feel, in some respects, I guess, happier because I was slimmer and things like that. But it was just a distraction from my mental health problems that I started having at a young age. Both extremes, the having lots of food or the not having it, was just a distraction from how I felt about myself. And then it went on, and after that there was drug addictions that kind of then distracted me from all of that, because I didn't need to think about food then. Kind of there have been many distractions / addictions over the years, and I think initially I just felt I was a bad person with couldn't control myself, or didn't have enough willpower, or all these other things. But now I look back at it and I'm like, it makes so much sense now to look back, doesn't it, when we look at these things.
And you might not want to say anything about this, but I'm just you mentioned sort of the mental health things. What do you think were the roots of that?
A combination of things. I was abused as a child,
right.
So that obviously didn't help. I had a very twisted view, I guess. A twist is probably not the right words, but I had a very strange view on what I thought love was, how to get love, on my body, what it looked like. I was disgusted by it, those sorts of things. Right. So at a very young age, there was a lot of conflict between me and my body, and my life, and friendships and things like that. And then and I don't blame this on my family at all, but I come from a family of people with mental health concerns.
Yeah.
So I obviously learned a little bit from them of how I thought it was okay to be with myself, to to not be kind and caring and nurturing and nourishing to myself,
Yeah.
and not think about these things, and to hide them, and to numb them in any way I could.
Yeah.
I actually, now talking about it, I now remember that I had quite an addiction to lemonade before I got onto any of the bad stuff.
Right.
Even when I was still at home, because it used to make me happy, because I used to drink so much of it. I had so much sugar in.
Right.
And I used to have a lot of that. So it's silly little things like that, and it's any way that we're trying to forcibly change our mindset, our emotions in that way, is a red flag,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. And so tell us a bit about your journey then towards healing and resolving those issues, and coming to getting to grips with the addictions or finding a way around them. Talk about that a bit.
It's just with it's part of where I've got to with my work now. It's the whole self-love thing. And I recognise, working within the nutrition industry and stuff, that a lot of people were finding it difficult to eat well because they didn't love or appreciate themselves, their bodies. And they weren't doing it in a loving way. They were doing it because they wanted to change, part of themselves. And it's the same with that, with anything in life, with finances, with relationships, with anything, abundance. Oh, the dogs are barking. And for me, it's the same with the addictions, and not just the addictions, just the overdoing of the box sets, or those sorts of things, is that it's all invitations to come back into balance, to come back into harmony, to come back into love with ourselves, our lives. And I think a lot of us, we feel stuck. We feel lonely, separate, and all these things we cover up, or we try to make ourselves feel better with having that glass of wine, with watching those box sets all night so we don't have to think about anything else, to Facebook, to drugs and alcohol and smoking and things like that, shopping as well, and the gym as well. And that's what I've noticed more in recent years. The unhealthy, I would say brackets kind of thing, the unhealthy kind of things we perceive as unhealthy addictions are now being replaced by things that are more socially acceptable addictions. But they're still doing exactly the same thing for us. They're still distractions. They're still numbing. So if you're going to the gym, every day and twice on a weekend and things like that, then that's it's still no better for your mental health than gambling, say. That sort of thing. I'll probably get told off for that, so I'm sorry if anyone disagrees with that. But they're still distractions. They're still numbing mechanisms. We're still not getting to the bottom of what's going on for us. And for me, having suffered from years of very, very severe depression, which I've then, tried to mask or help, again in brackets, with addictions and things, for me, the only thing that's worked after years of trying all sorts of things is to really allow my humanness, my me-ness, my feelings, my emotions, allow them to be there, to honour them and respect them, not become consumed by them and the stories behind them and why I think this is like this and stuff like that, but to really honour who I am, what I am, my desires, my needs, and not try to compare myself to others, judge others or myself, feel I don't fit in, all of these sorts of things. When I honour all of those parts that make me me, I don't need the distractions. I don't need the numbing. I don't need all the other things. Yes, they're nice to do occasionally still, but they're
Yeah.
done in a nourishing and nurturing way, not in a I must change my wherever I am mentally at the moment or physically at the moment or whatever it is. They're done in a loving and respecting way, not a I need to fix, change, or improve myself. And
Right.
that for me, and certainly for the clients that I work with now, has been really, really powerful, that shift in becoming loving, respecting, honouring of self, rather than I'm broken and I need fixing.
Right. So, for instance, and you might have just actually described the sort of first step just then, but let's say someone is about to reach out for that extra glass of wine that's just one too many, or actually I can remember when I didn't eat chocolate for about 10 years during the period I had ME, chronic fatigue syndrome, and then when I was better, I still didn't really eat it until a few years ago someone bought me some lovely chocolate from France, two massive bars of chocolate, and I had one square of it, and I suddenly thought, oh my God, I've been missing out on chocolate for all this time. And for a while, I was really binging on the chocolate. And binging in the sense that, I'd gone from eating nothing at all to quite a few. Well, I probably would eat half a bar in a day. And I remember one time meeting a friend in the park and taking the chocolate with me and saying, look, you have to eat some of this because otherwise I'm going to eat it all. And it's funny because I think having gone from not wanting it, not even thinking about it, to suddenly having it, for a while, for maybe about a period of a few weeks or a month, I was really eating quite a lot of chocolate. And then I just got to the point where I thought, actually, okay, I've binged and, I can forgive myself for that. And then I just found a sort of happy medium. I might just have a square once a day and,
Yeah.
occasionally two squares. And now I can go days without having any chocolate. But it was a really fascinating sort of experience of just going through that whole binge and then finding a more balanced approach to chocolate, which I still love. But what would you say is that first step when someone's reaching out for that extra thing, that extra, I'm going to watch that extra program when I know I'm feeling tired, or that extra glass of wine? What's the first step to shift, making those shifts that you're talking about? Do
Is
you
ask
think?
yourself, what is this giving me? And see what the first response is, even if it feels totally random. It might be sweetness, it might be joy, it might be comfort, it might be pleasure, it might be protection, support, whatever it is, whatever that first thing that pops up straight away when you ask yourself that. That's what I would invite you to try and generate in a more healthy, nourishing, nurturing, and conscious way instead. So if it's sweetness, then sorry, I almost dropped my ring. If it's sweetness, what ways can you bring more sweetness into your life other than eating 3 chocolate donuts?
Yeah.
Or if it's fullness, what additional fulfilling things can you do in your life? What is it that you really, I don't know, that you'd be creative with, or you could express in other ways? So many of us are not expressing our inner selves. We dampen ourselves down because we want to fit in to society. So that's one of the things I invite people to do quite a lot, is how can you express yourself in a more creative way? Is it singing? Is it dancing? Is it sewing? Is it gardening?
Yeah.
What is it that fills you up? Because if you start to feel full in your life, you're less likely to reach out for other things to fill that space instead.
Yeah.
So again, it's like I said, it's honouring ourselves, honouring our humanness.
Yeah.
Just because it might be that somebody 10 years ago told you couldn't sing, so you don't sing anymore, or you can't make money out of that, so you don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
But these things, you see someone else that's doing it, you think, oh, wish I could do that.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
start doing them, even if it's for 5 minutes a day. We start to express ourselves. One, our emotions come out in a healthier way. And two, we're filling our life with things that are healthy and nourishing. So really stop, take a moment. It might still be that you take that glass of wine still, or that chocolate or whatever, but just take a moment and see what it actually is that you think that it's giving you in that moment. Maybe write it down, just take that moment, and then do whatever feels right then.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting, because as you were speaking, it reminded me, I've had this experience on a number of occasions. For instance, being on holiday with a load of friends, and when I'm in that kind of environment around people and stuff, I don't feel any desire to, binge on anything. And I
Yeah.
remember coming back from holiday one Christmas, having spent time, 5, 6 days with family, and that's when I sat down in front of a film and ate 3 Toblerones, mini ones, admittedly, but the first one was delicious. The second one was quite delicious, but after I had the third one, I felt horrible. And it just, as you were speaking, it just really made me think that, when I had that connection with other people, I didn't need any of that stuff. I didn't need, and let's say the answer to that question is, what do I need right now, is pleasure. Because again, I recognise I'm a bit of a hedonist. I like pleasure. What would be just using that format that you've just talked about, what would be the next step to be asking, okay, how can I get pleasure in another way that's more wholesome or more nurturing? Is that right?
Yeah. It's write it down, journal about it, just get it out. So what brings me pleasure? And random things. This is the important thing. Whatever comes up in your mind, put that down.
Right.
So it might be flowers. It might be walking. It might be chocolate cake, but chocolate cake's not good for you. So maybe you look at healthy alternatives to chocolate cake. That's one of the reasons I like the raw food, is because you can have really healthy versions of these things that we're told are bad for us all the time. But also it might be taking a bath. I know that having long baths with a big glass of juice in a wine glass or something brings me a lot of pleasure. Right. Reading my book. It could be anything. It's totally different for the different people, and that's why I say is expressing ourselves in the way that feels right for us is that what we should be doing, not following someone else. Again, with what they've decided is right.
Yeah, and it sounds like what you're just describing there is a way of connecting to your sort of inner knowing. This process of just writing things down and seeing what comes up.
Which is much harder to do when you sedate yourself with drugs and alcohol and things like that. But it's like a double-edged sword. As we sedate ourselves because we don't want to feel all the bad stuff, but in doing that, it's harder to feel the good stuff.
Yeah. That's I really like that. That's sounds like a very interesting and creative way of, getting to know ourselves better by actually taking time to actually write things down. And I know, for instance, when I sit down, even just to write a blog post, the actual act of writing sort of frees up creativity. The ideas come that I wouldn't have, consciously thought about. They just sort of come. So I can see that could be a really powerful way of helping oneself to sort of really think about that pattern of behaviour and how to create alternatives that are more sort of wholesome.
Yeah, I mean, I recognised for me, this was a big breakthrough for me a few years ago, was I was constantly searching for happiness. I'd read books on, mental health, on depression, on how to find your happy place, how to be happy. I had coaching on trying to be happy, and thought I had something wrong with me because I only felt happy if I was drinking or drugs or, shopping or something. But it was because I wasn't allowing myself to feel the other side, the bad stuff, that I was struggling so much to feel the happy stuff. And when I allowed the perceived bad stuff in, not to become consumed by it, like I said earlier, just to feel it, then the happy came in as well. And they both reside fairly equally most of the time now.
Okay, so and just staying with that for a moment. So the feeling, the difficult stuff, is that a matter of just sitting with it, or is there something else that you would do? Would you journal, or?
It's honouring it. It's actually, when rather than before, if I'd done something that I perceived as stupid or bad or daft or something, I would have berated myself for it.
Yeah.
And now I laugh. I'm like, oh, God, you're just human. You know, it's okay. It's silly. I don't add another layer of feeling awful about myself on top of it.
Yeah.
So
just one layer.
Yeah. But
Not
it's just allowing. Yeah, it's just allowing ourselves to be human.
Yeah.
It's allowing ourselves to feel.
Yeah.
It's allowing ourselves to breathe. Sometimes I think, oh, I feel a bit funny today. And I sit there and I just breathe. And I'm like, oh, okay. I feel a bit sad. I've no idea why, but I feel sad. But that's okay, because I'm human.
Yeah.
That's okay. Rather than, I think in the past I tried to cover it up with drugs, alcohol, things like that. And then when I was, got onto this kind of holistic path, I was like, I must think myself positive and well, and but that for me didn't work either.
Yeah.
And I know it doesn't for some of the people I work with, because you're not expressing all the parts of you, you're not allowing all the parts of you, and you're in conflict with parts of you because of that.
Yeah.
So it's just that allowing of your humanness, allowing of your you-ness. But again, like I said, not getting consumed by it, because that's when we fall into the pits of despair and depression and things. But, thinking, you know what, I'm sad, and that's okay, because it's been a hard few weeks, or, whatever it is, that's okay.
Yeah.
And just breathe and be okay with it, let it go, or tap on it. I use tapping sometimes, EFT, or just send it love, send myself love. It's whatever, again, feels right for you. Meditate on it, just be in nature, let it go down into the soil again, ground yourself in nature, whatever feels right.
Yeah.
But not shutting it off, not trying not to feel it, because it's still there.
Yeah.
And then it pops itself up all the time, and that's when you start numbing it with things.
Yeah.
When the numbness leads to addiction most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so no, that's very interesting. So, any final thing you want to say about this topic? If someone is struggling with an addiction, it might be you've covered it all, but is there any final little thing you want to say?
That stop giving yourself a hard time for the addiction, because all you're doing is adding another layer, like we said just now, of feeling crappy about yourself on top of the already feeling like that.
Yeah.
So, if you have an addiction, then honor it, acknowledge it, kind to yourself, because in making us...
You cut out a minute then. I think you said honor yourself, then be kind to yourself.
Honor yourself. I can't remember.
Okay.
But yeah, just be kind and gentle, because what happens is we feed the addictions otherwise by thinking, I'm a bad person because I have this addiction.
Yeah.
So then feeding it, and then
Yeah.
we do more of whatever
Yeah.
it is we don't
Yeah.
want to do.
Yeah, because then we feel bad, and then we want
Yeah.
a distraction from those bad feelings, so we
Yeah.
go into the addiction.
Yeah. So wherever you are at the moment, just honor your humanness of being wherever you are at the moment, and then you can start to move forward with finding healthier ways of filling that space of creating or being creative, of expressing yourself, of being you. And you'll slowly, hopefully, need the addiction or the distraction less, because you're not hiding anything. You're not trying to numb anything. You're just you.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Excellent. That's really, really fascinating conversation to have with you, Faith. Where can people find out more information about you?
My website is faithcanter.com. My YouTube channel, which you can get to from my website, it's got lots of videos on it, and various all the different social media platforms and things as well.
Okay, and am I right in thinking that your recent book actually takes further what we've been talking about, which is about developing that more loving relationship to yourself?
Yeah, my recent book is called Loving Yourself Inside and Out, and that's really kind of been it's a combination of a lot of things over the years. It stemmed initially from working with people with nutritional concerns and things like that, and why they found it difficult to eat better and do things healthier for themselves. But it also is it's just about honoring our own humanness, our own being, and how we can find our happy place then, and how we can live in a much more nourishing and nurturing way with ourselves and our environments.
Right. Okay. So check that out, people, and I will be as well. So Faith, thanks very much for your time today. If people want to get in touch, they can. And thanks again for that conversation.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for inviting me to come along and have a chat with you.
Excellent. You're welcome. Okay, bye for now, Faith.
Take care. Bye.